Today I thought I would just touch on three items, and one being a quick market update that I kind of give you from time to time when I'm here. And then in my discussion and interview, a great interview by the way, by Bruce yesterday when we spoke, we talked about working with buyers and how that process goes. So I thought I might touch on that. And finally I'm going to close up with just a few items about home ownership and its values. First, on every 2 weeks I receive because I have a subscription with him on the Orange County Housing Report. It's emailed so we can always just quickly get the information, and a lot of the information is broken down by city, which I thought I'd touch on a little bit and then move on. But right now, the demand and the supply are kind of a little bit out of balance. But if your home is under $750,000 anyway, that range comprises 48%. I mean, almost half of the active inventory. But the big issue is that it's also 71% of the demand out there that most people are looking for. So pricing is going to be extremely critical, especially if you're over the 750,000 mark. So, and also there's always a summer lag. Everybody sort of has a misnomer that the summer is the best time to sell their house when in fact it's usually the spring. And anything starting perhaps even in March, April, and May, because once June arrives, and we all know what happens in the summer months when there are graduations and there are vacations and there's holidays and out of school, and the 4th of July rolls around, and it really makes a tremendous difference on the supply, not so much the supply, the demand for homes in the summer. So it's kind of a hard time to try to explain to people about pricing, but pricing is going to be, is always, but especially at this time of year, is the key to getting your home sold. So you have to get an expert like an experienced realtor like myself and go over all the comparables and discuss the condition of the home, and really be very, if you really want to sell this time of year, you better have it really priced right, because they're not just flying off the shelves as a lot of people hear in the media, because as we know, the media doesn't always support the exact truth. Sometimes they maybe overinflate it a little bit. So you definitely want to get an expert to give you as much information as possible. And with that, I'm going to kind of move on, because I know some of the, just for an example, everyone still asks about whether or not there are any good deals out there. Foreclosures is what usually people's first thought would be, or a short sale. So wanted to give you a few cities and some of that, because I know some of the places where I know some of us live. So, for example, Costa Mesa has, where I live, has 131 homes on the market only. I mean, these are single-family homes, as of June 18th. And out of that, only 2 are in what they call distress, which would be a foreclosure or a short sale. Aliso Viejo, pretty much the same thing, 120 on the market, two of which are a number of foreclosures and short sales. Cypress has 71 homes on the market, and they have 5. In Fountain Valley, there have 3 on the 3 that are considered, if you look at all price ranges, a distress sale. Irvine has 8, Los Alamitos none, and Mission Viejo 9. So to put it all in relativity is, of all of Orange County right now, there are 6,534 homes on the market, and 212 would be what we would consider distressed or foreclosure. So there's not a lot to go look at if somebody is saying, I really want a good deal. But there are always good properties out there, and I think any house that's what you want and what you need and what you're looking for, And if you have a good negotiator in your corner and you do a lot of counseling with the buyer and counseling with the seller, you can always make it a win-win for both parties. That's what our job really is, to work with both parties to make sure that everyone feels as though they have, they got a fair deal in the situation. So we talked about servicing buyers when I was talking to Bruce, and how do I do that? Do I have a contract with the buyer once you meet them? And there was a great deal of people pushing, the industry was actually pushing for a buyer-broker agreements, just like we do with listings. And some agents do that, and some, like myself, I've really never, when you meet a buyer, you don't necessarily I feel as though I have to earn their respect and their trust and show them the value before I feel as though I expect their loyalty back to me. But with doing that, I think it starts with having a professional discussion with them. And so I had things printed up a lot, this many years ago, so I went through some of my old files that I kept, because they're still valid today. And I think communicating and counseling the person and explaining what the real estate transaction is going to be like, especially a first-time buyer who's never done it before, or even if it's a buyer that's moving up and hasn't had a real estate transaction in, say, 10 or 15 years. It still takes a certain amount of counseling and explaining the documents in advance. So sitting down, explaining, and asking questions of them too, but I try to let them know that what my services are to them and how I'll help them go through the process and protect their interests, give them as much information and answer all the questions that they have and having some concerns. And also dealing with professionally handling the transaction with the other company, because it's not always me selling my listing. It's always, how many? 2? Oh, 4, 3. Well, anyway, some of the questions we like to ask, you want to know of course, what kind of home are they looking for? Is it going to be a single family, or based on their price range, is it going to be a condo? How willing are they to make changes in the house that maybe is not exactly like they like when they walk in the door? Maybe they're going to have to modify it a little bit, whether that is to change the bedroom configuration or maybe add a bedroom, that's what we talked about, or something like that they can, paint, carpet, things like that we don't consider necessarily a fixer, but some of the things when they have to do a whole kitchen or something. But is a school system important? How far is a commute important to you? Because there are some people who will specifically say, I want this section of town and no other neighborhood is going to work for me. So we have to scour the market and look for that. So it's important to have a good rapport with the buyer as you do a seller. So I think part of that is this counseling. So finally, I'm just going to say what I consider the value of home ownership. And as we know, housing is a significant driver of the national economy, and it accounts for more than 15% of the gross domestic product. Also, home ownership results in a significant results in individual and social benefits, as far as we find that the family units or the couple, whatever kind of family that looks like, and also neighborhoods. It just there is home ownership, we find that there are better neighborhoods, and families prosper, children prosper in an environment when they have a home. And with that, I'll end with any questions if you might have. And if any of you would like to get that kind of economic housing report on a regular basis when I receive it, if you'll let me know, I can email it to you as well. Yes, Chris?
What do you think Janet Yellen's up to?
Pardon me?
What do you think the Fed's up to?
Well, we know what the Feds are always up to. They're trying to, in respect to like interest rates perhaps, yes, they're going to go up. We feel, I wouldn't want to, I know Kathleen is probably better versed at that than I, but we all have to keep our heads open, our eyes open and our heads up, because yes, those interest rates are not going to stay at 4% for very long. And it really will impact home ownership and prices. So, thank you.